Okay, so in my last video, I talked about 8 ways that toxic shame is a very unhelpful emotion slash belief that keeps you stuck. And after hearing those 8 ways, you might be like, I can't stand my toxic shame. I just want to get rid of it. But the problem with that is the more you hate your toxic shame, the more you try to reject it and get rid of it, the stronger it clings to the coping strategies that keep it alive. So not only do we want to understand how toxic shame shows up and keeps us stuck, but how can we work with it in a way that allows it to loosen its hold on our behaviors, our sensations, our images, our emotions, so that we can step out of those old coping strategies and into who we really are. First thing to understand is that toxic shame, even though it feels like the enemy because it's keeping you stuck, it is not the enemy. So toxic shame isn't just an emotion, it is a full body reflex. And I say reflex because you're not choosing it, but it's a reflex designed to keep you safe and connected to your caregivers. So for example, in childhood, if you had caregivers that created an unhealthy environment where you didn't feel safe to have needs, you didn't feel safe to have emotions or to be authentic, then your nervous system was like, being you is dangerous, and it threatens your connection to these people that are caring for you. And so without that connection, your life is on the line. And so the nervous system sees a need to adapt to your circumstances to help you to stay connected. Sadly, it forfeits authenticity for safety because that is what was necessary when you were young. And so it keeps you small. It causes you to suppress your authenticity. It keeps you quiet, invisible. It makes you agreeable. It forfeits your self-worth for safety. And so because it is so interwoven with safety, that's why hating it and trying to get rid of it or trying to delete it doesn't work. Very much like, let's say your house is on fire and your fire alarm is going off, right? And it's extremely loud and it's extremely annoying, but that alarm is there to keep you safe. So you can go up to that alarm and be like, can you please stop? I can't stand you. You're giving me a headache. I don't like you. You're embarrassing me. Your fire alarm is not going to care how you feel because it's doing its job. Well, guess what? Any survival strategy of your nervous system, including toxic shame, is a strategy that your nervous system views as its job to keep you alive, and it doesn't care how you feel about it. It's going to stay loyal to the strategies that kept you alive when you were small. Now, you might be thinking, yeah, okay, fine, it did its job, but I'm an adult now. I can survive without my parents. I can survive rejection. If somebody doesn't like me, it might hurt, but my survival is no longer dependent on their acceptance like it was when I was an infant, so toxic shame can leave. Well, the problem is that our nervous system does not update its operating system automatically or just because the years are passing. And that's why, while those things are true, and I completely agree with you, toxic shame is still going to show up anytime you try to set a boundary, anytime you try to step into your authenticity, anytime you try to live in beliefs like, I deserve to take up space, I'm allowed to be authentic. Whenever you try to live in those beliefs, shame kicks on and flings you into those old coping strategies, again, not because it's the enemy, but because it's very loyal to the strategies that kept you alive. Basically, to your body, it's like those things that you're trying to do now as an adult, you couldn't do back then. It hasn't been updated to realize that you're no longer an infant. So it stays in those strategies. It's like, hey, you survived that. Why change things? And so when we see it that way, we realize that the shame isn't the problem. It's the outdated operating system. And so how do you heal? Shame doesn't dissipate through rejection, through strong-arming it, trying to bully it so that it goes away, but instead it heals by creating a relationship with it. So how do you do that? This is where we have to understand the language of the body. Our body experiences things using 5 different channels. In somatic experiencing, we use the acronym CYBAM to help us to remember each element that the body uses. And so understanding the body's language and working with it in its language involves getting to know the sensations of shame and building capacity to be with them. Now, this is challenging because when the body feels the sensations of shame, which could be heat in your face, your shoulders hunching, your body collapsing forward, tightness in your chest, your body can get confused and think that because you're feeling shame now, you're back in the past in your most terrifying moments. So we need to build capacity to not only be with those sensations, but to also help the body to keep one foot in the present. And sometimes we need co-regulation to do that. It can be very challenging, especially in the beginning, to do that alone. Your body may also give you images. The images can be abstract, they can be memories or symbolic, but some images may be of this implication that being seen is dangerous. Being exposed is dangerous. Your nervous system freezes you in time. And so what you want to do is give compassion to the images that come up, because that's what rewires those neural pathways. The third way the body experiences shame is through its behavior. So you may not be able to make eye contact. You might people please, over-explain, can show up as self-abandonment. And so healing is about going from hating those behaviors to learning to notice them with curiosity and giving them some space, because the curiosity that we give it and the compassion by understanding that our body's been through a lot will allow it to feel safe, to be seen with you, which will soften its reflex to go into those behaviors that feel compulsive and reflexive. And then we do have to build the capacity to be with the emotions that came up in childhood that caused us to go into shame that our body has never been able to be with. So we have to build capacity to be with the emotion and uproot the painful meaning. So that's a lot of work, right? Working through the elements of CYBAM to work through shame is not an overnight thing. It takes time. It takes changing your relationship with shame to one of acceptance and compassion. And doing that alone is very, very difficult, because when you work with the elements of CYBAM, it's like you're putting one foot in the past with what you went through, because our subconscious shows up in our body. So when you're working with the body, you have one foot in the past. If you're not able to keep one foot in the present, you're going to wind up feeling flooded and overwhelmed. And so I really want to encourage you, when you're doing this work, to get the proper support, a somatic experiencing practitioner, a trauma-informed therapist or coach. But having that co-regulation is vital so that you can build the capacity to work through shame in a way that uproots it organically, instead of trying to force your hand in your body and fling it out of you, which doesn't work. If you're interested in working with myself, I work not only one-on-one, but I also host live weekly Zoom meetings in the School of Transformation. If you're interested in that, comment SOT and I will send you a link so that you can check out that resource.